Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to my channel. So recently I posted a video titled "Is the UK state pension about to be scrapped?" And to my surprise that video has become the most popular video on my channel. Like I say, it shocked the hell out of me. My videos don't normally get thousands of views, and currently that video has about 15 or 16,000 views. So it's done incredibly well. So I'd just like to say thank you to anybody who has watched, liked or subscribed from that video because my channel seems to be growing at a pretty rapid pace, which is just incredible. But today I thought, because that video was so popular, I would do a follow-up. Now, I mentioned in that video that there is a potential in the future for the UK state pension to become means tested. And there is another country in the world that already do that. And as I mentioned in that video, that is Australia. So I've had a look into what Australia do in regards to their pension and what criteria they put in place in regards to it being means tested. And I thought today's video, we would go over that criteria. And I've also converted their numbers into British pound, so we can have a look at exactly how it would affect us UK citizens. So in Australia, they have two sets of criteria that affect the eligibility for a full state pension. The first one is called an income test, and the second one is called an assets test. And both of them have some sort of impact on what kind of pension you can receive. Now, I'll first go over the assets test, and this is broken down into a couple of categories. The first category is whether you are single or in a couple. And then the second category is whether you are a homeowner or not a homeowner. And depending on where you fall in those categories depends on how much your assets can be worth before they impact your ability to gain the state pension. So firstly, if you are single and a homeowner, you are able to have assets up to 314,000 Australian dollars before your state pension is reduced. So you don't lose the state pension at that point, but it becomes a reduced state pension. Now that figure, if we convert that into British pound, is £162,000. So you can be single, own your own home and have assets up to £162,000 before you are ineligible for the full state pension, and it would become a reduced state pension. And I will note, your house is not taken into consideration as part of the assets test if you only own one residence, which is your primary residence. If you own multiple houses, then the extra houses that aren't your primary residence are taken into consideration. But if you just own one home, like most people do, then the house that you live in is not taken into consideration. So what would be is stuff like stocks, maybe cars that you own, things like that. So just other assets. Now, if you are single and a non-homeowner, so that you rent, then you are allowed to have assets up to 566,000 Australian dollars. So that works out to be £292,000. So again, if you are single and a homeowner, you can have assets up to £162,000. But if you are single and a non-homeowner, then you can have assets up to £292,000. So as long as your assets fall below those two figures, you would be eligible to pick up the full state pension, and nothing would change for you. Now, if we move on to a couple, so a couple combined can be homeowners and have assets up to 470,000 Australian dollars, which works out to be 243 British pounds. Or you can be in a couple and be non-homeowners, and you can have assets up to 722,000 Australian dollars, which works out to be 373,000 British pounds. So again, you can be in a couple and have assets up to 243,000 British pounds and still pick up a full state pension, both of you. And you can also be in a couple and not own your home and still have assets up to £373,000 and still pick up the full state pension between both of you. So to me, I don't know about you, but that surprised me. And actually, those figures are a lot higher than I anticipated them to be. And if you think about it, that means most people, I would imagine, will not be affected if the state pension was to change to a means tested pension. Now, I know in my previous video, especially in the comments, there was a lot of panic surrounding, well, what would the figures be? Who would it, impact? Would it impact 90% of people? And, we're all going to suffer in our retirements. But if we look at those figures, and this is not guaranteed, this is just speculation on if we were to adopt the same policy as Australia. But if we were, by looking at those figures, I think it's clear to tell that the majority of people would not be affected by this. And it's certain to say the majority of people would be eligible for a full state pension. Now, as I said earlier, there is a second eligibility criteria that Australia currently look at. The first one was the assets test, and the second one is the income test. Now, with the income test, it's similar to the assets test in the sense of they look at whether you are single or in a couple. But in terms of owning your own home, that doesn't come into the income test. And basically what the income test is, it allows you to still earn a certain amount of money before it affects the pension that you are able to receive. And those figures are the following. So you are able in Australia to pick up $212 a fortnight, which works out to be 109 British pounds. So you are able to earn that. And I know it's only a small amount of money, but you can earn that amount of money before it affects your state pension. And this is whilst you're picking up the state pension. If you're still working and go over that threshold of £109, then in Australia, they take 50 cents for every dollar that you earn over their threshold. So that would work out in England to be 26 pence for every pound you earn over that threshold. So it's very similar to the basic rate of tax that we currently all pay. So if you do continue to work whilst picking up the state pension, then if you earn over £109 a fortnight, so that would be £218 a month, which it isn't a lot of money, I know, but that's as a single person. So you are still able to earn some money, but if you earn over that threshold, then they would just tax you 26 pence on every pound that you earn. So you could continue to still work whilst picking up the state pension, but obviously once you do, it reduces. That 26 pence, I believe, would come off the state pension that they are paying you. So the more you earn, the less pension you receive, and I guess it would work something like that. Now, again, that was for the single person. So as a couple, same applies. However, the threshold is slightly higher. So as a couple in Australia, you can earn up to $372 a fortnight, which works out to be £192 a fortnight in the UK. And you can earn that as a couple and not be affected. If you earn over £192 a fortnight, then again, they will take 26 pence for every pound earned over that threshold. And that explains the income test. So as you can see, Australia have two sets of criteria, and they both affect the ability to pick up the state pension in slightly different ways. I think the one that people are going to be most concerned about is the assets test, because to be honest, once you've retired, most people don't want to continue working. The income test, I would imagine, probably affects very few people, whereas the assets test is something that is going to be, affecting everybody. However, whether it affects you picking up your pension, that is obviously up for debate. That depends how wealthy you are at the time you retire. But from looking at those figures, I could imagine that most people, as I said before, will be fine to pick up the state pension, because most people will, whether you own your own home or you don't own a home, the numbers that Australia currently look at, most people will fall below them on the assets test. And as long as that is the case, you have no worry about picking up your state pension. But for wealthier people, which arguably are the people that can do without the state pension anyway, well, then those people might be asked to fund their own retirement. But, you know, it's arguable that if you have assets over those thresholds, then technically you can probably afford to do that anyway. So there we have it, guys. That is a brief explanation of how the Australia system works and how the UK state pension could look in the future. Our government could potentially adopt that same policy. Again, the numbers I'm sure will be different in the future. As years go on and inflation goes up, those numbers will increase over time. But how do you think you would be affected by listening to those numbers? And again, if the numbers were a bit much for you, I'll leave a link down below to the article where I got all these numbers from, which was from the Australian government database website. I'll leave that link down below so you can check out the numbers yourself and just kind of run the maths and see what your own situation looks like. But let me know down in the comments whether you think you would be affected by this or whether you think you would be under the threshold and you would be absolutely fine. But if you made it this far, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.